Alright, EA Ermor, turn 75, storming Agartha this turn, and if history has taught us anything, it is that that always goes well, and there's going to be no problems whatsoever. Report from Agartha, of course, and Ermor, interesting. An enormous blizzard, but only 19 were killed, right? So 205 were hit, which is unfortunate, and of course we lose an elder, right? Old man in robes. But this is the difference, right, in temperature scales. So we have our Dominion in Agartha, just barely, and we have Heat Dominion, so like this is a lot less effective. Now, I mean, you know, we're still, again, because so many of our casters are squishy, some of those, it might be, the effect might be outsized compared to, you know, how many units actually died. So it does look like Russ is going to contest this, which I guess I should have expected. Like, yep, there you go, there's a battle, so we may not even get a storm. Let's take a look. Okay, so he's just trying to cheese us with something. No, it looks like he's actually evacuating. And yeah, this is just a lone priest, which is probably a good sign. Let's take a look. Okay, you know, the communion is still somewhat active. We're trying to rely a little less on the communion these days. But anyway, it's a good sign that it's a priest, right? Because that means like maybe he's struggling to bring a lot of his summons in that he's been using to bless up his sacreds. And then let's take a look at the storm. I think this is going to be an empty fort. Yeah, more or less empty, not quite completely, just some undead that he couldn't lead out, that he just abandoned. So that works out for us. We do still manage to lose, yeah, a couple long dead horsemen and a couple flagellants. Of course, you know, the wall archers are always there and active, but all things considered, that went a lot better than it could have. Let's take a look at the report from Ermor. Let's see. Okay, a spell passed through the Dome of Flaming Death. That is going to go down relatively soon, but it's still up. And so, you know, the caster got blasted, but they survived. So his casters are pretty tough. So, you know, he may have just survived in general. I think probably the other thing you can do is if you give the person like fire resistance gear, the Dome of Flaming Death is, you know, going to blast you with fire magic. And I'm pretty sure that fire resistance, you know, that you have on yourself will help you survive that. So now that he knows about it, it's going to be a lot less effective. We probably won't put this one back up. We may try some other domes. We'll see. I'm not actually sure what he cast. Like, yeah, we'll have to take a look. And then we had some mind hunts. So let's see. So was resisted, of course. And was resisted. So yeah, you know, like, I don't know. We have penetration gear on our guys, but the rolls are not going our way. Definitely Russ has been good about putting some magic resistance gear on his commanders, right? And keeping that high. I don't think those guys had any magic resistance gear on them, but you know, that's how it goes. We missed with the arcane probing. These are relatively like low probability. I'm not even really sure how worth it these are. But you know, some places, like I said, we kind of have low astral in some ways. So there's definitely some provinces that we've only searched at Astral 1. So, you know, I don't know. I feel like trying to get those searched up to 9 probably worth it. Anyway, here's a battle between Niflheim and Russ. And I don't think this is on the fort. So yeah, this looks just sort of like a raid. So this is a remote attack spell. Some ghouls that he called in. Okay, wow, yeah, and this is a lot of stuff. So this looks like mostly like that thug group kind of that we saw before, that, you know, fought against Niflheim and definitely dealt some casualties, but wasn't able to beat it. I think they weren't able to kill one of those Scrotty. But it does look like, you know, they still have gems. So, you know, either some of these guys have joined up. Like, yeah, this guy looks familiar. So possibly some guys moved in to join, or, you know, he probably has some gem carriers sneaking around with them. Yeah, so still quite a few gems here. This is still like a really dangerous group. And then possibly Niflheim magic phased on top of this. Yeah, this guy can cloud trapeze. Nifl Jarls do not normally have any air, so this guy's been empowered in air twice, which is really expensive. The first empowerment is 50 gems. The next ones aren't as bad, but anyway, like that alone is a lot of gems. And then, you know, he's got a lot of gear. Looks like he's been set up for like caster mode, definitely. Maybe some water casting. Like, I don't know. This is a really expensive item as well. Like, yeah, this is 50 gems, and it makes your elemental spell range better. So planning on doing some elemental casting from the look of it. But yeah, this is a really expensive setup, and he's solo, which makes sense. Like I said, Niflheim doesn't really have a lot of options when it comes to magic phasing on top of stuff. And then of course, like, these guys are also in the magic phase, because all remote attack spells, well, I don't know, most remote attack spells certainly resolve in the magic phase. So we've got some evocation casting coming from Russ, Howl from Russ, let's see, Wailing Winds also from Russ, Relief by Russ. So a lot of the same stuff. Whoop. that we've seen before. And of course, like the Neefel Jarl has flight. Yep. And he's ethereal now as well. Ouch, but he's already routed, probably due to Wailing Winds. I don't think it's really going to show it. Yeah, because like base morale 15, but current morale only 10. 15 is not like super high for a super combatant or a thug, but he probably has some retreat routes. So, you know, hopefully this is just sort of a wash. Obviously, he loses the gems from Cloud Trapezing in on top of them. But this triggered gem usage for Russ. So on the balance, as long as that Jarl survives, I'd say this is, you know, kind of a win for Niflheim, but like not really like that significant. So yeah, Wailing Winds, you know, it's a hassle. And then one of our augurs gets eaten by some horrors due to the lanterns that we're using. And then one of our liches, there's a seduction attempt. I'm assuming, okay, yeah, this is on top of our main army. And like, yeah, we have a few bodyguards here, some long dead horsemen. I don't think they're going to do great against the water elemental. Yeah, and they like casting invulnerability. I don't think this guy, okay, he's protected against lightning. He does have a bunch of death gems, so like hopefully, like, come on, buddy. Make some skeletons. The skeletons, of course, like aren't going to help us. We should turn on team colored squares here so we can see whose skeletons are whose. Ooh, control undead, very nice. The water elemental, though, could be a problem. Water elementals do mundane damage, so that's good. Shadow Blast. Oh, I don't think he can get affected by that because he's undead. I thought he was going to kill himself. I think this is a different lich. It's like, come on, buddy. Okay, and the skeletons, it looks like we routed Russ's commanders, or maybe we killed the commander. Regardless, if you retreat, you die in an assassination, and this guy, it looks like, has been stunned. Yeah, or paralyzed by the Shadow Blast. That's one of its secondary effects. So yeah, you know, liches, like, they're dangerous, especially if they have death gems. Shadow Blast does use up some gems, so you know, these were gems that he wouldn't have had available in the combat that just happened. And so, you know, just another reason, right, that it's like you want to put extra gems on your important commanders. I'm not sure if he had enough gems. I don't think so. We're kind of low on gems. You know, I spend a lot of gems, but still, you know, that works out for us, and we are very happy about that. We don't find anything, sadly. It'd be nice to get our water bottle back, or I mean, it could be his water bottle, but definitely we have donated at least, you know, a few water bottles to him. And then looks like there's a raid, and we bump with Niflheim, which is unfortunate. So let's see. Yeah, there's nothing here on Russ's side, so this is going to be fine for us here. Let's just make sure that we don't like lose an old man in robes to any slingers. No, we do not. But now we're probably going to bump into a Scrotty, if I have to guess. Now, we certainly have a chance. Yeah, here he is. Yeah, and this guy's going to be dangerous. You know, he's got some armor. He's got his Berserk Axe. He's got Divine Shield. He's got plenty of regeneration. But, you know, we have some scary casters here, and we're going to punch out a Fire Elemental, who, of course, is not going to love the cold. Speaking of not loving the cold, right? Like our Equite on bodyguard for some of our undead mages, yeah, they don't love that. Like, I really think cold resistance on the Equite would be nice for a lot of reasons, and it's part of like why like I haven't really been giving bodyguards. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, like, yeah, and here's some human troops, right? They're falling asleep, so they might actually die, like, due to fatigue, despite like whatever else happens. So anyway, still trying to figure out the bodyguard situation, and cold resistance on the Equite is definitely a consideration, especially because like Niflheim is pretty common in early age, and this Scrotty is wrecking our fire elemental, which is sad. And like, yeah, there's quite a bit of resistances on this bless. So he has, you know, 10 fire resistance. Now that's said, Incinerate can definitely punch through that. Cold is not going to matter. Not that we can really do that. He doesn't have much shock resistance, but I don't think we have any of our air casters here. We do have our Prophet here, but you know, this Scrotty also regenerates a lot. So I just think, like, yeah, it's not looking good. Also, too, like, we're fairly fatigued out. Let's see if this guy's like thrown out a Soul Slay. No, he's trying to do Paralyze, and yeah, the werewolf resisted anyway. So yeah, this is not looking good. It's still not impossible, right? That guy's not super asleep. So if he wakes up while this Scrotty is, you know, killing other guys, like, yeah, we lose a white mage. I think we're gonna lose this whole stack. So we're pretty much just hoping for a Soul Slay, but of course he's throwing out Paralyzes. I'm not sure what this guy's been doing. Let's take a look at his log. Yeah, looks like he's also trying to paralyze. So yeah, I guess like Paralyze has seemed, I don't know, the AI certainly thinks that it's more likely to go through, right? And so it often prioritizes that over Soul Slay, which is like, yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, if you paralyze, like, there's nobody else here to kill it. So really wish they would prioritize Soul Slay. We weren't really set up to defeat Asgrati there. And yeah, Niflheim is trying to, well, it has locked off Helheim from us. Now, that said, I mean, you know, we just bumped, neither of us were communicating about it, and like, that's a pretty hostile move. And now, you know, obviously, like, Niflheim is in a good position. So he, you know, may be moving, right, maybe getting ready to attack us anyway. But I'll probably reach out to him and let him know that, like, hey, look, like, I'm coming through that province, like, one way or another to get to Helheim. You know, we can race for it. Like, if he manages to get, like, a big army on top of it before I do, well, I mean, you know, that's that. But, you know, if he's not interested, right, if he's like, well, that's my province now and you can't move through it, we'll probably end our non-aggression pact with Niflheim. Like, if our only option to attack Russ is to go through his capital, right, which is going to be incredibly, I mean, it has been incredibly painful and will continue to be incredibly painful, and will essentially, like, force Russ to move most, if not all, of his forces to block us, and, you know, we'll have to use most, if not all, of our forces to try to overcome that defense, right? At that point, I don't know, then the war starts to not really make sense, right? Because, like, okay, if Niflheim is not going to work with me, right, and is actively moving to block me off from gains against Russ, you know, and he's looking to pick up a bunch of easy gains against Russ, you know, it's fairly hostile. It's looking like, okay, he's going to attack. So I would probably reach out to Russ, and, like, we would just aim to take all of the Agarthan territory, which should have always been ours. And, you know, we'll see, right? Like, obviously, me and Russ have not been able to come to an agreement before, but, you know, I mean, now that he's being attacked by Niflheim, and, you know, I can basically be like, well, you know, like, now it looks like I'm going to need to fight Niflheim. There's a fair chance that he would be interested in that. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But, you know, we're certainly not going to stand for, like, okay, Niflheim gets to take Helheim, right, and all those other capitals. You know, if Niflheim was going to take Sitis, right, and then we take, like, Helheim and maybe, you know, a few other provinces, like, that I would be more okay with, right? It's not like Niflheim hasn't been fighting Russ. Like, they've definitely been doing some lifting just recently. But for us to get almost nothing against Russ in this whole conflict, like, that's just not going to fly. Not that I think we're in a good place to be beating Niflheim, but, I mean, you know, there's really no point in just, like, rolling over and letting that happen. Like, if Niflheim's going to move in, you know, we might as well have that fight now, right, while he's still distracted with Therados and Russ, rather than just being like, yeah, okay, fine, you take everything, and I guess, like, we'll just twiddle our thumbs and wait to die. You know, I mean, there's other things we could do, right? Obviously, we could try to move in and vulture Vanheim's stuff, and, you know, maybe we could fight against Femoria, but, you know, realistically, like, Niflheim is the problem. We also don't love Illwinter, so, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think some people kind of feel that, like, casting a hostile global like that essentially cancels non-aggression pacts. And yeah, I think there's an argument to be made in both directions. But certainly Niflheim is not our friend. So temporary ally, maybe. So let's see. There's a battle between Vanheim and Femoria. So it looks like Vanheim is attacking back, raiding back. Yeah, so here is... yeah, Van Jarl with just a Frostbrand. This is about as budget as you can get, but, you know, it's one PD. That's all you need. So definitely some competent rating from whoever took over. And that's good news for us, because we do not want Femoria to finish this quickly, right, and then be on our border and unoccupied. And then, yeah, so this province I'd actually captured, like, with a scout last turn, and I was kind of surprised that, you know, Russ had not put any province defense in it. I saw that it had no province defense. I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll have a scout conquer it. But this province somehow has been reduced to absolutely zero population. And if there's zero population, you cannot put any province defense in it. So, like, yeah, nobody can really easily hold this against anything. So, yeah, I think I moved this scout out. We might take a look, try to see, you know, what's in it. Kind of curious to see what he recaptured it with. And then we caught another battle between Russ and Niflheim. This is Russ attacking Niflheim. I think this is, yeah, on the fort. And, like, yeah, this is a fairly substantial force. Pretty similar to what we've seen before, right? He's brought some more long dead horsemen in. Looks like he just has his skin shifters mostly just on bodyguard, I'm guessing. He also has a couple specters in here, which is new. This is interesting. He's been boosted in death, but he's been given some water gems, so not sure what he's planning on doing with that. And then this guy, yeah, pretty similar pathing. And it looks like, yeah, this thug group that we saw before has moved into this province, so they're going to have to fight again, and they've probably had most, if not all, of their gems burned. She still has some gems. So I don't know if they have enough gems for whatever it was that was planned. Then, that'll be interesting. We'll see what happens there. And on Niflheim's side, not too much. One great eagle. Yeah, so this guy retreated to this province. So this is kind of like a rematch, but there is a Scrotty here as well. And I think we've seen this guy before. Yeah, he's got the unequaled obesity, ton of hit points, and like, yeah, we talked about his gear. I do think this is a switch. Like, he's got a little more fire resistance, maybe not, but anyway, he's very resistant to cold, very resistant to fire, not so resistant to shock, and rust definitely can do shock damage. So that could definitely be relevant. And what are you doing? It looks like this caster has been feeble-minded, right? So he just has her out in front, set to attack, because you still pay upkeep on those mages, so he would like to get rid of that. The bugs come out, of course, and like, yeah, here's the shock damage. Some of the bugs, flying in. There's an air elemental, also from Russ's side. Let's see, what is this? Some Soul Slay coming out, probably from Russ. Let's take a look at what this Jarl is casting. So like Blessing, Flight, Mist Form. Yeah, so he's just gonna thug. I think it's kind of interesting because his gear sort of indicates to me, like, right, he's got this, so that allows him to do like farther casting, and then this also allows him to do farther casting. Not sure if it stacks. But like, yeah, so it's like, his gear is like not, I mean, protection 25 is decent, but I don't know, it's kind of weird because his script seems a bit more like a thug script. And then the Fog Warriors going off for Russ, which won't matter. Yeah, it won't really matter too much. It does kind of act as like a twist fate when everybody has magic weapons. Oh, okay, yeah, and his thugs got in here and made contact with the Jarl. Obviously, like these guys, or no, I'm sorry, these are just his skin shifters, who are still pretty dangerous, but a lot less dangerous with their mundane weapons. But anyway, for Mist Form, right, it gets popped by magic weapons, but it does at least like reduce that one attack, I believe, to just 1 damage. So it's not as good when you're up against magic weapons, but it's not useless either. And of course, like, yeah, Niflheim has only magic weapons on the field here, but he doesn't, his guys aren't like that killy, and it looks like this Scrotty has actually been set to cast spells. So he cast a Frozen Heart, and like, yeah, I think this guy's on caster mode as well. Let's take a look at his script, or sorry, rather his log. So yeah, not sure, he might be on spell casting, but he's definitely in melee now, so he's just beating on guys with his magic staff. So obviously, like, this is not the fight that Niflheim was prepping for, because he magic phased this guy into that other group. So like, yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes, right? You don't always get the fight that you were planning. And yeah, this guy's just surrounded by the long dead horsemen, and he's probably gonna kill him pretty darn slowly. And of course, like, both of these guys are gonna regenerate quite a bit. Ironically, this Scrotty is actually going to regenerate more. It looks like, yeah, it's a very cowardly Nifl Jarl. So he's retreated again. This Scrotty like is managing to kill some of these skin shifters, which we like to see that. We do like to see that, even if we end up having to go up against Niflheim. The fewer skin shifters there are in this world, I think the better for us. He's getting hit with like all kinds of spells, so I think he's probably, yeah, it looks like he's been paralyzed for quite a while, and possibly at various points he got confused as well. I think, yeah, there's some confusion coming out. Steel Breath, which is kind of a fatigue play. Rage, which is just a poor choice. I really hate that the AI casts that. That just makes it so that they have a chance of attacking friends as well. It's like, there's no friends on the field for this werewolf, so Rage does absolutely nothing. They probably don't have a ton of, but like, yeah, anybody who's got some air, like, come on, air evocations. That is absolutely going to be the way to kill this Scrotty, although he did get hit with Decay, and it looks like he didn't manage to resist. Now, his max age is, yeah, pretty high, 600, and his current age is only 263, so normally Decay is, not really that useful against units like that, but we're only on battle round, like, yeah, 49, 50, so, like, he's going to be decaying for quite a long time, and that may actually start to become an issue. Yeah, and he's taking some hits just from like regular weapons. I think these are just like sacreds in here, not thugs. Let's take a look. Yeah, this guy's been cursed. Probably a lot of curses flying around. Yeah, in fact, you know what? Here's one of his thugs with all the images. So unfortunately for Russ, like he hasn't made contact and probably isn't likely to make contact because the Scrotty is just going to be focused on this front square, and that's where units are going to filter in. Scrotty taking absolute pounding, but he regenerates so much. Now he is going to start to stack up afflictions. Yeah, so like so he's been enraged, he's been confused. It's a difficult moment for this Scrotty. He's berserking, but he's paralyzed. Like he's confused, he's enraged. Somebody blinded him. That was a good choice. That's a fire spell. He's got a limp and a never healing wound, and like that's gonna continue to stack up, right? As he continues to take like just absolute ton of hits here. A lot of them are not like big hits though. You can see it's like he gets some damage and then he just regenerates it back down. He takes some damage, he regenerates it back down. And as the defender, I think Niflheim will rout later. So we're coming up on when Russ is forced to withdraw due to the turn timer, right? They're just not killing him quickly enough. He needs more air casters here, I think. But I mean, he's brought quite a few casters, and of course, like he's busy with some other things. Some damage starting to stack up. Yeah, wow. You don't like this is a lot of afflictions. You don't see this every day. He's got so many status effects on him and actually push the icons, out of the boundaries here. So I think he's old age now, right? So he's decayed long enough, and he's diseased, and he probably has like just about every he's crippled, weakened, battle fright. Like he probably has or will get like every affliction that there is. So I don't know how useful. He still has all of his arms, so there's at least a few more afflictions he could pick up. But yeah, I don't know how useful this Scrotty is going to be after this battle. And then I think battle round 90 I think is usually where armies of Russ are routed. Right, and like most of this is just summon garbage that's gonna disappear, and he's probably gonna be busy enough to just kill everything, just kill the chaff. That is, for whatever reason, this skin shifter fell asleep. Right, so Russ will lose a few things, but it looks like most of his mages are gonna make it off before this Scrotty is able to deal with them. And I'm not really sure that this Scrotty is like able to deal with like all that much more. So there's a decent chance that we're going to hit the point, I think it's 110, where the defenders automatically rout. So we should see that shortly. Armies of Niflheim are routed. Now, I don't know if this Scrotty... Yeah, he's not super asleep, although he is incredibly old now. He's 933. So I don't, I think he'll survive this battle. He will eventually get killed if he doesn't make it off the battlefield, but I don't think that's going to happen. Now he was berserked. Yeah, it looks like he is still berserked, so he will not rout off. But it's going to be really difficult for him to catch these the Russian units. So he is definitely in danger of just being killed. I don't actually know at what round. Eventually, Dominions is like, okay, anybody who's still on the battlefield, you're just dead now. Like, stop. Congratulations, you've broken the game. Like whatever spirit inhabits Dominions is just upset with this performance, or maybe impressed enough. It's like, none of this should exist anymore. You kind of have to do that. Like, it looks like I don't know. It didn't look like he made it off the field. So let's see if he's listed as, one of the dead. So he's not. So not sure what happened there. I don't see that very often. So I don't know, how the report handles units that got killed off, right, due to the battle just completely timing out. But ignoring that for a second, like this isn't too bad for Russ. This is a lot of long dead horsemen to be losing, right? That's a lot of death gems. So like that does hurt, but he doesn't lose any casters, and he only loses 2 skin shifters. Very sad about that. But of course, on Niflheim's side, the losses aren't too bad, right? That Jarl retreats again, so assuming he had retreat routes, and I'm pretty sure he did, he probably survived. And then possibly his Scrotty also survived, although that is going to be one really messed up Scrotty. But if he can get him to a lab, he can strip all the gear off, right, and give that to some other Scrotty. It's a little sad to, have like the hero get completely wrecked, right? It's unlikely that the next Scrotty will be a hero, but it's not the end of the world, right? If he saves the gear, then like really almost no losses there for Niflheim. So another interesting battle, but inconclusive. And then of course we saw the battle in Agartha, and then this is another one of our raids. I think just like like a fire snake group. Not really expecting any resistance here. Yeah, just some slinger PD. I think we should be able to take that out, hopefully without loss, right, guys? Yeah, so that works out for us. And I think, no, that doesn't quite cover everything. Looks like we caught another battle where Niflheim is attacking Russ. Because we do have a decent amount of scouting here. Yeah, this is on top of a fort. So this is the kind of stuff, because there's just a ton of Great Eagles here, so he's going to be able to crack this fort quickly. And yeah, there's really no defense here. I don't think there's anything inside this fort, so yeah, this is unfortunate, right? We did a lot of the lifting, and like now Niflheim is trying to come, well, he is coming in, and grabbing the spoils, which is, that's just good play. So I don't have any problem with it per se, other than I will be, working to try to avoid it as much as possible. Like, yeah, we really need to aim to try to get Helheim. And like, yeah, Russ could be in trouble here. I don't know. Certainly he's doing a decent job, holding off Niflheim's main forces, but I think, he's just too stretched at this point, which is, like I said, good for us, but then bad for us if we don't get to take advantage of that. And then, yeah, this is the storm against Abyssia's capital. And Abyssia doesn't have too much in here. It was sad. Looks like this guy's just set to retreat. So this is probably largely unscripted. I'm not sure if we have a sub for Abyssia. He may even be AI right now. So yeah, this is sort of just burning ones who sadly look like they are not getting blessed. Also, at least like some of them are old age. Yeah, these guys are not priests. So like, yeah, this is going to be a slaughter here. Burning ones are decent and like, maybe could do well against Van Heers, but like not unblessed. So like, yeah, Vanheim loses nothing, and I believe, yeah, that is it for Abyssia. Very sad about that. They were an excellent ally. Hopefully, we'll find that player again in some future game. Old age plagues us, of course, an unexpected event, false prophet. We may actually try to, yeah, that's going to be annoying. We need our Dominion in places, although I think this, I don't know, I'm not sure where this is. We'll take a look. That's not great, but it's not the worst thing either. And then let's see, a Lich reformed, that's nice, and this is one of our old Twiceborn guys that was in our army, so we actually, got a white mage out of that disaster against the Scrotty. So yeah, I'll see you guys after the jump. All right. This is the situation and what we're doing about it. Yeah, kind of I don't know, a rough turn, but so I reached out to Niflheim and let him know that, like, look, if we don't at least get, 147 here and Helheim, that, this is the end of our non-aggression pact, right? So in 3 turns we'll be going to war. Like, are we ready for that? No. I mean, I don't think Niflheim's really ready for that either, right? Like, they're a really good player, but I mean, Russ is a really good player as well, and I know that Therados is a good player. They're also like busy trying to eat Ubar, who sounds like, I think we're going to set Ubar to AI. Definitely seem like they've checked out, right? But Niflheim has definitely reached the size where, they have a lot of problems, and like we might be able to convince Xibalba to come in against them. So like, they don't need another problem, right? We can see that our border is very demilitarized right now, and I'm sure, Niflheim is enjoying that. Obviously, we're taking huge advantage of that as well. But if we don't have any more gains that we can make against Russ, like, yeah, I think we'll be able to clean, this stuff up, and that's fine. But, we've held most of these provinces at various points, and none of them are particularly great. I don't think there's been a whole lot of site searching. Just like, they've changed hands a lot, I think, throughout the game. So nobody's really ever had a chance, to site search them properly. So there's not a ton of gem income here. Maybe there just aren't a lot of sites here. Most of them don't have a lot of income. The throne is obviously important, but it's the throne of bureaucracy, right? And so, like, yes, I mean, pushing our Dominion will be nice, but we're going to lose 100 gold a turn from it, which, like, we're not exactly swimming in gold as the world dies. So it's like, if we can't even, pick this stuff up, it's kind of, Niflheim's just going to cut us off from that and then just take, everything from, like, nah, that doesn't work. So, we might as well fight Niflheim, right now while they're still busy, rather than just being like, oh, okay, and then, like, yeah, then they're going to attack us once they're done with stuff. There are other things we could do, right? Like, obviously, like, Vanheim is in a good amount of trouble right now, right? So, we could end our non-aggression pact with Vanheim, and they're obviously, like, a much weaker target, a target that's much more on our own strength level, but I think in a lot of ways that's just kind of giving the game to Niflheim. I don't know. People argue back and forth, right? It's like, is it a good idea to attack the game leader? Is it a bad idea to attack the game leader? I think it just depends on the situation. I just think for us, like, we have a throne right here on our border with Niflheim, and hopefully we'll have another throne relatively close to Niflheim. So once Niflheim is done eating whoever else they're eating, we're kind of an obvious target. Now that said, if we can pick up these provinces here, which is not a lot, but at least we'll get one more capital. We're gonna get a decent amount of death gems. Yeah, right. Like this death gem income is gonna be huge. So if we can lock all of this down, then, I certainly don't want to go to war with Niflheim, right? And at that point, I may actually seek peace with Russ. I mean, obviously, we have not been able to agree in the past, so we'll see. And, I don't really plan on offering, good terms. We're going to take all of this, definitely. Obviously, I mean, we have to if we're going to be taking Helheim. That's the other thing. Niflheim sent me a screenshot where, a failed assault that he had on Helheim. It's kind of okay, that's great. I know all about failed attacks against Russ. So this is all, of course, very speculative. Russ, I'm sure, will have things to say about us taking Helheim, and I expect to see, some lost screens here and there. But with Niflheim also attacking them, it's gonna be tough for them. So we'll see. Of course, our capital is very close to their capital, so at any point, we may have to drop what we're doing to defend ourselves. But if we do manage to wrest this away from Russ, and assuming that we don't end up having to fight Niflheim, then we're going to try to make peace with Russ, or even if we don't make peace with them, it's just, basically a Cold War where it's okay, there's no declared peace, but there's an unofficial ceasefire. And then, we'll start looking at more reasonable targets, and while also building up our defenses, because Niflheim is eventually going to try to take probably sooner rather than later going to be trying to take these thrones. So, we do want to try to build up defenses there because we've been stripping them. And assuming that leaves us with anything, we'll probably try attacking Femoria. I know I've talked about, how we want to get vengeance on Vanheim. The player, it's a different player now anyway. I don't know. It's also probably not the right move for us. We have a better border, definitely, with Vanheim's holdings. So in that sense, it's a good move. But we know that this land has been relatively depopulated by Abyssia's death scales. And the other thing is we do not have a non-aggression pact with Femoria. So, and we actually don't, especially if they manage to take, if they start removing some more of Vanheim's stuff, we'll have a decent border with them. And we can actually move through this cave system relatively quickly. Once we have to pay the horror tax to get into our caves, at least from TNN. From Agartha, we can just move, Agartha's in so we are the king of the caves for the moment. So, we'll be able to move through this cave system, and that'll give us fairly decent access. Now, I mean, granted, probably most of these mountain passes will be closed, so getting out of the cave system, of course, is always tricky. And we definitely have problems in caves. So is it the best plan? Maybe not. We'll see, right? This is all speculative. For now, what we're doing is, we're moving a good chunk of this army down to take this fort, not expecting a lot of resistance, but, then again, who knows? So, we're sending down everything that we feel is not going to die, mostly to Murdering Winter. Obviously, since we're in caves, Earthquake could be a bit of a problem, but most of this stuff that's resistant to Murdering Winter is also pretty resistant to Earthquake. Potentially only the Long Dead Horsemen, right? They're not going to love Earthquake, but they have decent enough defense skill. They're probably going to negate a decent amount of the damage. So yeah, troop-wise, this hasn't changed too much. We've just eliminated all the human components. None of our Sacreds are there. I thought our Sacreds actually did decently well surviving Murdering Winter, because there was 30 or 40 of them left in that army, but it was really just that we had a lot of Sacreds there. We had 70 or 80 Sacreds there, so we lost probably half or maybe over half in Murdering Winter. So I think our Sacreds are also going to be more of a defensive and raiding tool. So our raiding is going to be a lot better because we just can't put a lot of our stuff into army stacks. The main thing is our caster support is a little on the weaker side. So we had to cut Fog Warriors because we just we have to bring a ton of augurs, right, to make the communion strong enough. Our air access is via communion mostly. So we do actually still have a small communion, which we may lose to Murdering Winter. But most of this stuff is not relying on the communion. A little bit of magic duel and stuff still mixed in. So there's still some vulnerability, to Murdering Winter here. When this army was created, created, it wasn't really created with Murdering Winter in mind. Also the Fire Snakes, I don't think they have, they don't have cold weakness. I think they have enough hit points. They don't have, like, the Trolls will do better simply because they just have a lot more HP. And then, of course, we've talked about, well, actually, these undead, they have a lot of hit points for undead, actually. But the normal undead, right, they don't care about the cold. So, yeah, I think most of this is going to be fairly resistant. We have some cold resistance gear on our Lars, at least. Like, we're still missing that. Like our human commander here probably would die. And anyway, Murdering Winter is still not going to be great for this army, but it's going to be a lot less of an issue. Otherwise, we basically have like Wailing Winds, Fatigue Play, and then just, a bunch of stuff. So is that going to be enough, against this reduced Skin Shifter group? Unknown. Like, Fog Warriors would be really nice, but like I said, we can't pull off the Air Communion. So we're going to send it down. One nice thing is we have like one Equite here that survived. This is all that's left of that army, but he is holding down this siege, right? And he keeps our flag on it. It's probably the only reason that Niflheim is like not on top of this throne already. So, that's kind of a nice little consolation. And then speaking of Niflheim and, kind of up in the air negotiations, we're breaking our non-aggression pact a little bit. We're gonna mind hunt this Scrotty here, which is definitely definitely a violation of the non-aggression pact, both in spirit and in fact. And I don't love doing that, but I don't have a ton of sympathy right now for Niflheim, right? Like, I mean, we've been working under Illwinter here for a long time, and that's a very hostile global for us. So, like I said, in some senses, like, the non-aggression pact is like, kind of dicey anyway. And like, this was a bump, right? And bumps are, they happen. I definitely didn't communicate my rating with Niflheim, but like at the same time, like this kind of move, I've talked about it. He's trying to cut me off from gains. And there's more than enough here, right? Like, Russ has a lot of other territories, so I just don't have a lot of sympathy. Also, Mind Hunt doesn't tell you who did the mind hunting, obviously giving it up here, but Niflheim won't know that I did the mind hunting, and we know that Russ definitely is capable and has mind hunted us, so, he won't actually know, so it's totally deniable. And we probably won't continue, right? Assuming that we manage, that he gives us Helheim and everything, then, we'll just mind, like, this Scrotty came in and killed some of our stuff, so he's going to have to resist some mind hunts, is how I'm justifying it to myself. Otherwise, we have some raiders moving in, to clean out this Russian territory. There might be some PD dumps, but I don't know. We've been taking out the PD dumps fairly successfully, so, he might back off on that. But, it's the same, like, fairly strong raiding group here. There's a lot of augurs who are not going to be useful, right, in our main armies anymore. So, they can raid and, make the fire elementals. And then we're also moving a Lich out, right, who's just going to make skeletons. And I think between, those two groups, we should be able to clean out these flags fairly quickly. And then hopefully we'll take this fort fairly quickly. And then there's a chance that Russ will knock us off the throne and we'll have to fight him there. Obviously, like, Niflheim has this stack. Like, I wonder what this stack is doing. Could be going after Ubar, right? There is some of Ubar's territory. There's a throne here, which would be nice. Makone is, like, still sort of alive. So, yeah, this could go other places, but it's pretty close to Helheim. So, we'll see. Are we going to try to fight this stack immediately? I don't know. Haven't decided yet. Moving some of our other raiders back, the legionary infantry that I was planning on using to raid against Russ, we are currently going to move that kind of onto the throne and or like our border with Niflheim, because, if things don't work out, like, I may kind of break the nap. Like, I told Niflheim that it's like, look, if I don't get these two provinces, like, you can consider our nap finished this turn. So, like, if this army then moves on top of Helheim, I'm going to count the nap as having started ticking down from this turn. And I'm not necessarily going to inform Niflheim of that. And I don't know. We'll see what they do with it. It's one of those things, right, where it's like, okay, I made the offer clear. They offered an unclear response. So it's kind of like, they're moving to win the game anyway. So, we'll probably launch like legionary infantry attacks against hopefully the entire border. Now, they're not going to make a lot of headway, right? Like, I expect initially they'll be able to overrun the province defense but then they'll start to get picked off relatively quickly. But, we can, like, our money situation isn't great, but we should be able to replace them with, relative relatively frequently. And it should put a lot of pressure on them and will hopefully give us time and some more resources to try to come up with some better answers. So we'll see, right? We may transfer those infantry, to our other border, like if things work out, which is like, maybe a bit of a waste of time, but it is what it is. So that covers like, most of our movement arrows. Otherwise, like probably just, site searchers, stuff like that. Recruitment-wise, getting another bishop, I can't really explain this. It will help us a bit if we're going to raid with our sacreds, and we are still getting our sacreds. Like I said, I think they're going to make for really strong raiders. So, anywhere that we're running into, a lot of province defense or like something that's not a fully geared scrotty, we'll be able to use them, to take provinces. But yeah, maybe we would prefer a mage, like possibly, money issues. We're actually going to get a couple more horticulturalists. We're, not like low on nature mages, but what we're really actually low on is water mages. So definitely have some thoughts about playing early age Ermor as a whole, and like we'll get to them, but yeah, could definitely use more water mages. And there's there is this fellow. He's got water hidden in here. So anyway, we have just this water mage here who we're actually using in a nature capacity this turn to forge a thistle mace, and that's just related to a lot of our nature magic, right? Is also communion based, and lizards have a few more hit points, but they also die to murdering winter. So in a lot of ways, our nature access is kind of struggling right now as well. So, we definitely need to forge some more boosters to try to get like some higher level mages, basically fewer higher level mages that we're going to dump more investment into so they can survive in like, this hostile endgame scenario. And of course, like, yeah, our Lars could also serve as our water mages, but, we don't have a ton of them. We've been losing them. And, the ones that we have are, currently serving in armies. We probably will want to summon another one in, but, we don't have a ton of nature magic or nature income. And a good amount of that is going to, try to replace boosters. So we're hoping for, it's like 20% chance, I think, for one of these paths. And we wouldn't mind like another earth mage. And like I said, the augurs, like not these guys, like they're going to be even worse, right? 5 hit points. So like these guys are just purely going to be for like some light forging and stuff like that. And again, like the stealthy rating, right? A little bit of swarm rating. Like, okay, we don't have great nature income, but yeah, just like the augurs, we probably have enough augurs, right, for our defensive purposes. Maybe not on this border, but it's just like, yeah, now that we can't really stack them into the communions, they're a lot less useful. So we're going to start transitioning, I think, away from augurs. And then, yeah, of course, here's an augur. They are still useful in the defense. And then, like, yeah, we're getting another cap only. Of course, these guys, same problem, right? Humans in robes, old age, but, they're at least, like, powerful enough mages that, like, provide access that we don't have a ton of. I don't know, actually, like talking this through, really the only thing that they give us high access in is fire and astral. We could use some higher astral magic. But yeah, we probably will stop recruiting these guys. I actually think the play, and this feels really weird. Here's another augur. So I haven't implemented this yet, but I've, been thinking about it. Yeah, augurs everywhere still, because I'm just kind of defaulting to what I've been doing, but yeah, it takes a second, especially if you haven't really like dealt with the situation, to get yourself in a different mindset. I think possibly the play is to go into augur elders again, which just feels weird because they're so old, and of course we have burden of time, so they're gonna die of old age, and of course they died of murdering winter too. So it's like, okay, that sounds kind of dumb, Trajanus, and yeah, maybe. But Twiceborn, right? Like more white mages. I don't know. I'm split. So what we're doing with our death gems this turn is Lichcraft, right? And that's the other thing that we could be doing with our death gems, and that's a really good use of death gems, right? When we've talked about liches, they're immortal. They got really good, cool things. They're high level death, which is going to be useful, especially against like a lot of the stuff that we're going to be going up against Niflheim. But they are pretty limited, and like there are some pretty significant counters to like undead units. Now, I mean, of course, white mages are also undead, so they're going to suffer from the same problems, but at least they're just more varied, right? The augur elders, so they can bring other magic to the table, whereas the liches, like all they bring is death. And the other thing is that white mages are significantly cheaper, right? So to Twiceborn one of our augur elders, it's 10 death gems. So we can get 3 white mages for every 1 lich. Now, like, the liches are immortal, so they come back. So, how to balance that? Like, I'm not really sure. So I think we're probably going to try to do it like 50-50 split, so like get a lich, maybe get like 3 augur elders, like get a lich, get 3 augur elders that we, turn into white mages, because they're really not going to be useful in their human form. So yeah, I think that covers recruitment and most of it. Otherwise, like clamor pearls, temporary astral gems, like we still will want stuff like anti-magic, right? We're still very much at war with Russ, and that'll take some of the strain, off of our astral pearl income, which is not good. Another rune smasher penetration item, a lot of the death spells that we can use against some of Niflheim's thugs and super combatants will benefit from penetration. Although now that I'm thinking about it, we may need to start summoning in kind of like some fighter chassis, and we actually have decent earth income. We're bringing in a troll king as well this turn, so we'll have some trolls that we need to get rid of, but another very powerful earth caster, which will be useful because research wise we will get alteration 9 this turn. So that'll open up Army of Gold and Army of Lead for us, as long as we have, a powerful mage that can survive murdering wind and, all that stuff. So we're going to get another Earth Caster for that stuff. But yeah, we may need to summon in, some counter thug chassis, and we have decent earth income, and so we can start making like great swords of sharpness, and maybe just go like super low tech, because Niflheim's Bless is definitely focused against magic resistance, has magic resistance, right? So it's focused against some penetration stuff. I mean, he has regeneration too, so that's going to be a problem for any kind of sword attempts. But the Scrotty thugs don't have like great protection usually, so if we can get enough of those guys, that might be the play, because I think the expectation is that we're going to be trying to do things like Soul Slay and things that he's going to need magic resistance for. So probably the thing is to do both. So we haven't started moving into that yet. Not really sure offhand what chassis we would use yet. We probably don't own it yet, so I'll have to go hunt around in the vanilla conjuration and see what garbage I can find. But yeah, I think that covers turn 75.